Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I am Bill McMinn. Along with me is Mark Hostetler, talking about listening, because I think we could do better. And sometimes I have to say, if I don't talk text a lot, my wife will do it. But if you talk to Siri, it doesn't matter. Ask a question, give an address. Hey, text this. It's so butchered. Like what that actually, like what my phone thought I said versus what I actually did say were two different things. And I thought the other day, I'm like, what if I probably need to realize that people hear me like my phone does. Mm-hmm. And that when I thought a word was crystal clear, perhaps it was not crystal clear in their minds. And their own brain has autocorrected some of what I said to make it what I really didn't say.
Isn't it the truth?
I think it is the truth. Absolutely. So we hear 20 to 30,000 words a day on average. We can talk 125 to 175 words per minute. But your ear can absorb 450 words a minute. And that's why people get off track. And so they're not really, you have to realize your brain can hear a lot faster than someone can talk. So they're talking, and that's why you know, like especially my squirrel brain will jump off over to something else or be somewhere else. And I have to be aware of that. And an interesting thing is, but we remember less than 25%. You remember.
I think that's a high number, actually.
Yeah. Well, it was 17 to 25% you actually remember of all the words that you hear, which is kind of scary when you think about your communication to somebody else, to your children, to your spouse, that they're only going to remember 25% of it anyway. And so maybe that's why you get that. I didn't know about that. You didn't tell me that. And you're thinking, no, I did tell you that, you know, but.
Yeah, Bill, I think it's because of what we do in the spaces. That's what I learned in hospice training is, you know, these numbers, these 20 to 30,000 words on a day, you can process 450 words a minute.
Right.
There's only 125 to 175 that I can speak.
Right.
So there's gaps, like right now.
Right.
So what do I do with that gap? If your mind goes to something else in that gap, you're not going to remember what was just said.
Right.
But if you sit there and you think about that, what was just said while you have that gap, you know, you're going to be able to reflect back and remember a lot better, you know. Right. And I really have to work on that. I mean, it's
really I think it's focus. I really do. Yeah. I think too, you know, it says that 7% of what you communicate is your words. 93% is nonverbal.
That is so true.
I thought it true as a guy who speaks at funerals. I always remember, just remember these people are grieving. They may not remember anything that you said, but they will remember how you said it.
Absolutely.
And they will remember if you came across as loving or you came across as negative. And sometimes I realize that it's not really what you said so much as the fact that you were there, that you cared about that person. So I think that's important to remember as well. But here's one quote: effective listening is actively absorbing the information given to you by a speaker, showing that you're listening and are interested, providing feedback to the speaker so that he or she knows the message was received. Delivering verbal communication, like writing a newsletter, involves trying to choose the right words, nonverbal cues to convey a message that will be interpreted in the way you intend. Effective listeners show speakers that they have been heard and understood. And they say that effective leadership is effective because it listens to other people. That effective leadership is actually listening.
I'm laughing because we're in debate season right now.
Right.
And how much do you think those two that are debating, like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, are actually listening to each other? I mean, they are interrupting. As soon as the one person's done, they're working on their next point, you know, and boom, they want to boom, and they come back, and it's like, this is so unproductive, man. If you just took some time, and now thank God, Pence and Kamala Harris, they just had their debate last night, and that one was a lot better in that regard, you know, where they were a pause, and, you know, there was a lot more respect given to each other, you know, so.
Yeah, but it's politics. I mean, and I think in politics, it's all about debating, and you have two sides that like to bicker. And I would say that bickering is probably not productive. And I've never minded having an argument with my wife if I thought it was going somewhere. These debates are not changing. Obviously, Kamala Harris has not come to the debate for Mike Pence to change her mind, and Mike Pence has not come to the debate for her to change. I don't think they're really there to learn. They're there to communicate. It's a whole different thing. Like when we're talking about, you know, I'm listening, I'm actually open to learning. I'm actually learning that maybe there's something that I didn't see. So we do have to develop some skills. In James 1:19, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Man, that's That's important. I mean,
It's
be
so
quick
important,
to
yeah.
hear. And I always take it like this, like twice as fast to listen as I am to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. God gave you 2 ears, remember? And
Right.
one mouth, you know,
Right.
so double the listening time. Yeah, half of the talking time. So I love that, and to your point earlier, that quote, actively absorbing, the listening is more than hearing. You're actively absorbing it,
Right.
like you listen to it,
Right.
you can hear a lot of stuff all day long, but man, sometimes you grab onto something and you listen to it, you hear that distinct thing among other noises, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? And actually, unfortunately, in a conversation, I'm the guy if I'm having a conversation with you and there's something behind me, I'm listening to that.
Right.
And I don't know how to change that. My ears go to the back, and like I'm listening to you, but sometimes I'm hearing their conversation instead.
Right.
And it's frustrating, man. It's like,
Right.
man, I got to learn how to just focus on you and do what James says here. Be quick to listen to the person.
Well, I think
that
the
you're
key in
engaging
talking to you is being more interesting than the people behind you.
with. Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Well, I think of Rehoboam, talking about the importance of listening skills. He was the king after Solomon, and, the people came up and said the taxes are too heavy. He refused to listen and split the kingdom. And, some of those counselors were telling him, you should listen and lighten the taxes. And the other younger counselors, you don't need to listen to that, whatever. And it nearly started a civil war right there.
Yeah.
Then ended up, they didn't go to battle about that. It's just 10 tribes were always the northern tribes and 2 tribes of the south. It was always a divided kingdom from then on. And that all came because he just wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And so many times we have problems because we're not listening to our spouse. We're not listening to others around us. We're not listening to our friends. We're not listening when people are trying to tell us, hey, here's how to avoid a collision up here. Here's how to avoid problems, man. You got to listen. And we just refuse. And then, boom.
Yep. In February of 2017, I had the privilege of taking over leadership of the worship ministry here at the church. And when I did that, I got the team together, and our brother Art, he joined me in leading the ministry. And one of the things that I was going to do is get rid of everything in our in-ear system. I know this might not make sense to everybody, but we have things that are in our ears that you guys don't hear.
Right.
And one of the things was piped-in music.
Right.
And the other thing was a click track. I didn't like it. I wanted to get rid of everything. I talked to the team about it. It was across the board, unanimous. They said, please don't get rid of the click track. They didn't mind if I got rid of the piped in music, but don't get rid of the click track. Guess what I did? I kept the click track.
Right.
You know why? Because I have to listen to them. I have to
agree.
understand why they want that. And I have to try to adjust. I can't just put my foot in the ground and say, nope, this is where I stand. Some things, if it's sin, I get that. But that's, I'm willing to go with them if they want that. Absolutely.
I think you have to be willing to move. We had an idea for a Christmas video skit. I shared that with a young lady. She texted me, I don't know, a week later, telling me why she thought it was a terrible idea. And so, okay. And she had this long text course as a guy. I like to keep it simpler. And I just said, love you. We won't do it. That's just that simple. And then we talked a little bit more about it, but I appreciate it. But I think as a leader, you have to be willing to listen to what people are saying. And texting's a tough thing. We're talking about, in-person listening. Texting, you can't really read tones. You don't know the expression on the face. Sometimes you don't know if they're kidding or not. So I use a lot of little smiley faces and laugh out loud so people know that when I'm humorous and when I'm being facetious, right.
Yeah.
But here's some skills, and we're talking about developing skills. One they suggest is reflecting, which is repeating back. Okay, I hear you saying this. So this is, and you say, oh, so you mean this, or so that did bother you this way. At least they know they're being heard if you reflect back to them.
This is an excellent thing to do for marriages that are having communication problems. I know my wife and I have done these sorts of things right here where, it's so mechanical almost at the first, when you first start doing it, it's like you have to listen, like you hold a pillow or something, and then the other person takes the pillow, and then they talk, and then you give the pillow to the next person, and while you're holding the pillow, you're the one talking, and if you don't have the pillow, you don't talk,
Right.
But it's training us and teaching us communication skills that are necessary. There's times where my wife will say something, I'll walk away, I don't even know what she said, I shouldn't do that. That's the closest, most important relationship on this earth to me, and I'm walking away. She told me something, I don't even remember it.
Well,
I need to reflect back.
Right.
I have to take the time. No, she is important. What she is saying is truly important. And have that communication between the two of us. If you're married and you have communication problems, listen to this part right here. Reflect back what they're saying, and take the time to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
I think probing questions too, or one thing you can add, not judgmental questions. Well, how could you feel that way? I can't believe you said that. Not those kind of questions, but just asking them to clarify so that you understand the position. That would be a sign that you're really trying to listen, because you're trying to understand what they're saying, why they feel the way, not putting them down for the way that they feel. Because if you put somebody down for what they're saying to you, they're going to clam up in a big fat hurry. And I've experienced that actually, where you're trying to tell someone exactly how you feel. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And they bark at you about it. And guess what? They just lost an opportunity to know how you feel. And whether you like how that other person feels or not, you need to understand that's the way they feel. Mm-hmm. It's not about you liking it. It's about understanding what they feel. You can address it later if there's a problem where you think they're off or whatever, but to, at that moment, shut them down, I think is a huge mistake.
Feelings aren't right or wrong.
Right.
Feelings are.
Right.
They just are. They're not right or wrong. And it's up to us to try to dig into them feelings and try to pull out truth and fact.
Right.
But the feelings are just there. I mean,
even if you have a view where, no, I think we should do this, or this is what I think about that person I'm friends with. How could you be friends with this person after they did blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, it's just, you're stating a fact of how it is or what's going on. Or maybe you're trying to tell them that, hey, listen, this person's been communicating with me a lot. I'm not comfortable, whatever it is. And you just start to get the words out there, or try to, and they're barking at it. Again,
it's not good. It puts you on that defense. And,
right.
Yeah,
so you can't come across judgmental. Right. You just need to, reflect, probe. Responding is important.
Yeah, Bill, if I could just real quick there on that probe, it's almost like one counselor told me, hey, why don't you say this when she's done talking? What I heard you say was... and start your conversation back with what I heard you say was, and that allows them to correct something. Right. When you repeat back what I heard you say, blank, and that allows for space to happen in a conversation. Right. And allows you to stop that reactive communication. Like you're reacting in defense, or just stop doing that.
I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. And I think responding to stuff that shows you're listening. In other words, if someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm mad because, you ball up your socks and throw them in the doorway every day, or throw them on the floor and I have to pick them up, and you never change, what are the signs you ever really listen? It says in James 1:22, don't merely listen to the word and deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Jesus Christ said in Matthew 7:24, therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. It's putting them into practice. Now here's a not to do one. A not to do one would be deflecting. So in other words, you come to me with a problem. Hey, Bill, this happened on the worship team. I wanted to talk about it.
How about Browns?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
How about those rounds? I say something to you, or change the topic to what was going on. Oh, yeah, did you see that out front of the church? Well, that's not what you were talking about. Right. You're talking about what you want to talk about. I can wait for what I want to talk about. I need to complete your thought. And sometimes that's a hard thing, because you start, you interject a new thing and the other person's thinking, yeah, but I wanted to finish this conversation. Right. I feel like I haven't finished.
Well, there's ways to do that. I mean, if you don't have the answer right then, you just got to say, hey, you know what? Can I get back to you on that in a little bit? And then you go on to another conversation.
Well, that would be nice if that's what they were thinking. I think some people just aren't listening, and that's why they deflect it. And deflection is and also advising is one they say avoid. If somebody comes to you, husband or wife, and says, hey, I'd like your opinion, I'm dealing with this problem at work. Sometimes people just want to tell you a problem. They're not there to get your advice.
Bill, we are men. We like to fix it. And man, I don't know how many times my wife just needed me to hold her and just listen to her, and I'm trying to give advice, and it's just like, just shut your mouth. Just shut up. I think of Job, reminded of him where he was sitting there and his three friends, they started off good by just sitting with him as he's in his mourning position and all of that. And then they started talking, and they kept talking. And I'm paraphrasing. I can't even remember the reference right off the top of my head, but Job told him, listen, if you guys would have just shut your mouth, it would have been so much better. Right. Just listen to me. Right. And I think that's wise.
Yeah, because we're not, I think a lot of times men, like you said, will do that to women, or a husband will do it to a wife. Sometimes in the workplace, the woman will come to a guy and say, I'm having a problem, blah, 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 blah. And we're giving them advice instead of just understanding. They're just connecting with us. They're sharing their day. They just want us to know something that's going on. They weren't there. So as if they can't handle it or can't figure it out, they were just aggravated about it. And it's a good thing to keep in mind as we go through. But listening is, and those are a few tips. Listening is learning too. I mean, I don't see everything that I need to see, and that's why it's good to have different perspectives, because somebody's looking at it from a slightly different angle that I missed. Ooh, that's a good idea. I needed to listen to that. So I would say listening is learning, so don't interrupt. It says in Proverbs 18:3 to answer before listening, that is folly and shame. So if you're going to answer a person, you haven't even heard them out, and that aggravates the ever-living daylights out of me when I'm trying to say something and someone's finishing my thought, and it's not even what I was going to say. And then I think, okay, well, you already know what I'm going to say or think I do, so why am I saying it? And so there are times I'll just shut up. I'll just say, okay, if you're not going to listen to me, then, and especially that's true in marriage, don't finish my thoughts, just listen to what I'm actually going to say and learn what I really think.
But isn't that cute? When you finish my sentences, isn't that cute, Bill?
Sometimes usually my wife and I think the same thing.
Yeah,
like we're true. Usually like we're almost saying the same thing at the same time at times. But there are other times where she just assumes she knows what I'm going to say, and it's not what I'm going to say. And sometimes I don't finish the thought because, well, I don't feel like it at that point. You know what I'm saying? It's like you kind of lose your incentive, or you lose your enthusiasm to share something if you get cut off. So don't interrupt people. And leaders listen. It says in Proverbs 19:20, listen to advice, accept discipline. At the end, you'll be counted among the wise. Proverbs 28:26, those who trust in themselves are fools. Those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. So if you only trust in yourself and you're only willing to listen to yourself, you're a fool. Yeah. And that's what it says in the Bible. I've learned in leadership, I have to pay attention to who I listen to. I've had people tell me things that were 100% wrong because they just wanted their own way. Oh, this is going to happen if you do this, and it's not true. And it's like, no, this is not going to happen, and this would be the wrong thing to do. So yeah, stay on pace, but always do the right thing. But on the other hand, there are people who tell you stuff you just didn't know. You needed to know. You needed to. And then I don't mind changing for that. I don't mind saying, oh, okay, yeah, I don't have to do that. That's fine. You know what I mean? And I'll give you ground whenever I can.
Yeah, and for us who are Christ followers, we need to be listening to the voice of the Lord as well, right? I mean, we need to be trying to recognize his voice through all of this. I mean, I think of John 10, it says, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. Right. So I think it's also important to be seeking him. That's the beginning of wisdom, is to fear him and to be reverent of him. And, when you have these issues you're talking about and you're trying to learn, the first thing we need to do is hit our knees and pray and ask the Lord, and then recognize when he is leading, and a lot of times, Bill, he uses people to do that, and he uses the voices of others. I mean, where does it say in Proverbs also where there's wisdom with a large amount of counselors around you?
Oh, absolutely.
So you put people around you that you can trust, that have a proven track record of being, smart and wise about decisions, and you ask them often, what am I not seeing here? You know, and you get that, and you listen to their counsel.
Right. When God speaks, it's not an opinion. I mean, when it's his word, I always love it. I've had people say stuff like that. Well, me and Bill, we had a difference of opinion. I'm like, that was scripture. That's not an opinion.
It's
okay,
non-negotiable.
It's not an opinion. Mm-hmm. This was we were talking about what the Bible was saying, and that's a lot different than opinion. Right. But certainly being choosy, we do need to. And here's where we've been so far: develop some good skills for when it comes time to listen, and you've got to listen to learn. So it's important. And then you have to be choosy on who you're going to listen to. And you were saying about the wise. It says in Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise. A companion of fools suffers harm. You walk with the wise, you listen to the wise, you're going to be wise. And also with friends. We listen to friends because faithful are the wounds of a friend. And sometimes if I have a friend tell me, hey, that's wrong, and you shouldn't have handled it that way, I take that as a wound of a friend can be trusted. And I have I hurt friends? Yeah. But I'll tell you what, that wound can be trusted. Listen. Absolutely. Listen. And when someone's talking to me as a friend and they're coming, hey, man, you're really blowing it on this certain thing, and I think you're missing an important point here. Ooh, okay.
I know God has put people in my life, friends in my life, that have absolutely been crucial for my walk in the Lord.
Right.
In steering me the right way and saying, hey, what are you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I so appreciate the godly friends that I have that are able to give me counsel and wisdom when I need it the most. You
Right.
know? And I appreciate the Lord for that, actually, you know.
There's no, when I came into ministry, one of the things I realized is, Bill, you're not infallible. You're not inspired per se. So there could be things, just because you think it doesn't mean it's the right way to go. If God's leading, the whole group's going to see it, not just you. Yeah. And so you've got to be open to the fact that, no, you need to hear. And the more you hear, the more you listen, the smarter you're going to get.
That's right.
You're not going to learn. You already know what you think. What you need to learn is to listen, to find out what others think as well, and certainly to be listening to God. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to this podcast, and hopefully you've been able to do that. We love you guys. So glad you're a part of it. Have a great and a blessed week.